So Kaneki finally gets his mask. Oh my god, that looks so fucking badass. I mean, when you see him zip up that freaking, like, a mouthpiece, I mean, you see his eye sticking out of it, and the way the final scene of this episode ends on that, it just looks so freaking badass and awesome. And, I mean, the animation of that scene looked freaking great. And the animation of this entire episode looked really freaking good. So, this episode of Tokyo Ghoul, I want to talk about a couple things, okay? Before I get really deep into the overall plot and development and stuff of this episode. A lot of Shibits told me last week's episode was actually, you know, rearranging events. For instance, last episode was the arc they skipped before they went into that entire arc with Shu trying to eat Kaneki. So, pretty much now they're going back to the arc they skipped over, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, why would they skip over the arc in the first place if they were just going to go back to it? So, I don't understand, but overall, I mean, I'm guessing they're finally, you know, going back to where it was. For instance, they're getting back on track, they're not skipping over development, and they're actually trying to put in that arc that they tried to skip over. Now, I don't know technically if this episode followed the arc properly, because last episode, for instance, I was told that right at the end, they were going back into the arc, so I don't know if this episode followed it, I don't know if it was filler, I don't know if they're rushing things, I don't know. Personally, from my perspective of this episode, it looks good, I understood it, I saw the morals of this episode, and it really just gave me so many Tokyo Ghoul feels. I mean, the episode was freaking good. It really made me see the perspective of the human side of things. Now, let's talk about that, okay? This episode of Tokyo Ghoul, what I think was mainly there to show was the human aspect of how the ghouls look. From this episode, we get to see the position from the Dove's perspective. We get to see exactly how they deal with ghouls. For instance, Mato, as we saw last episode, and a couple episodes now, he's fucking crazy, he's creepy, he's overpowered, he's killing ghouls. I mean, right at the beginning of this episode, he kills that poor mother to Hinami, which is really fucked up. It really is. Let's just be all honest here. I mean, the feels from last week's episode, and the feels from this episode, when you see her smile, and all of a sudden you see a blood pool underneath her, that was just some fucked up shit. It was. And it really makes you hate Mato and him as a whole character. It really does. But I mean, that makes him a good villain if you can hate his character. But you gotta think about this in another extent, okay? Pretty much with this entire setup, it was made to make it look like we wanted Toka to get revenge against Mato and the Doves. That's exactly what it was set up to do in the first half of this episode. And then you have the, like, butler, the waiter, the main chief of, you know, the entire cafe, state that you should live your own life. It's sad to see someone living their life in revenge instead of living your own life. And so I felt like those were some words of wisdom, and it really actually portrayed this entire episode well, because the main focus of this episode, if you think about it, was revenge. I mean, you have the human side where, like, right at the end, you get to see that, like, Dove that believes in justice gets to see one of his friends cut down, and one of his innocent friends, it was an innocent human, get cut down, killed right in front of him, and he has to save him, and then you see Mato come in and save him, too, to save his ass from Toka. But you gotta think about this from a perspective, okay? This entire episode set up the revenge morals. For instance, everybody is seeking revenge. You have the human side wanting to get revenge against the ghouls, and you have the ghouls like Toka wanting to get revenge against the Doves. So, right now, there's a lot of things going on, conflicting feelings going on, and it really adds that tension just, you know, up in this episode. And the thing is, okay, I like the perspective of that Dove. I don't know his name yet, because we have only seen him a couple times, but that Dove that, you know, has a sense of justice, we actually see how he wants to change the world. He wants to change the world for the better. We can clearly see that. The only way, honestly, how this world is going to get better in this series, Tokyo Ghoul, is if Doves, or humans in general, learn to get along with ghouls, and ghouls vice versa. Of course, there's always going to be bad ghouls, and there's always going to be bad humans. There's always, you know, a difference. I mean, nobody's going to be all good. Like, there's never going to be nothing but good people. And so, I feel like there should be more, I guess, laws. I mean, personally, I mean, the best positive progression you can have with the society in this series is by having coexistence. I mean, if you look at it, it looks like it's impossible, and it almost is impossible, because you gotta think about this, okay? Ghouls eat humans. I mean, humans have their own sense of thought like ghouls, and so, I mean, humans are not gonna let themselves get devoured or turned into, like, a meat factory, so that most likely is not gonna fucking happen. So, the big thing here is they gotta figure out some way to have coexistence. There has to be some coexistence to stop this revenge, this violence, the useless innocent death. I mean, the death of innocence. Like, we get to see from both perspectives in this episode, like, you know, how innocent ghouls got killed. Hinami's mother, she gets killed for no reason. Hinami's father gets killed for no reason, technically. And then you have on the other perspective, the humans getting chopped down, like, cut up and stuff like by Toka. And so, you get to see both sides, you get to see both perspectives, and you can understand both sides' morals. And there's certain extremists when it comes to each individual side, like Motto, he's the extremist of the, you know, Dove side, or the human side, and then you have Toko, that's kind of like the extremist too, since she wanted to kill the humans, and she killed a poor innocent bystander. So clearly from this, we get to see both sides, we get to see both perspectives, and I love it a lot of how they managed to show that. Now, besides that, one thing I do want to bring up is they hint at Toka's backstory, some type of past she had in the background, because it seems like she had some form of tragedy with some form of events, because, I mean, it seemed like she was getting hurt when she saw a poor innocent ghoul, for instance, like, you know, Hinami's mother get chopped down. I'm guessing she had some form of issues with this in the past, something like this happened also, and it caused her to be like this, how she is now, and it might also explain why she's so close to her human friend. I don't know. But the episode had positive progression, positive development, and it really got the point across about what this arc is going to be about. It's going to be about humans versus ghouls. That's exactly what it's going to be about. It's not going to be ghouls versus ghouls like we had with Shu last, you know, a couple episodes ago. It's going to be focusing on the prime example of this series, and I wonder how it's going to be portrayed, because, I mean, like I said many times in my reviews, like, I mean, I wonder if ghouls can eat anything else. I mean, is it possible? I mean, why does it have to be human meat? Why? There has to be a chemical in the meat or something of human meat that ghouls need. There has to be, okay? So, what exactly is it that ghouls need to eat, like, in the human body? Why do they need the human body's blood? Is that it? Because if they needed just blood, they can get, you know, blood transfusions from hospitals. I mean, seriously. I mean, that'd be a lot easier way to handle than, you know, ghouls going out to devour people. I mean, there has to be some way to make ghouls be able to live with humans. I mean, we've seen examples of this through the course of the series already, how humans love ghouls. Some humans love ghouls, ghouls love humans. And so there has to be some way we can have middle ground. And one thing I do want to bring up before I end this is that I wonder how ghouls really come about. I mean, in this series, okay, we find out, you know, how, you know, ghouls are born and stuff like that, and how, you know, humans and ghouls can't be together. But the big question is I have with this series, since they're using these weapons, these Dove's weapons, okay? Clearly, it looks like I am correct with my theory I had last week's episode about how the Doves were using the ghouls as kagune. I mean, how they were using the weapons, like how it looked like ghouls, like, I guess, tentacles coming out of their back, whatever you want to fucking call them. Pretty much, I think I was correct on my theory, because when you had, you know, Hinami look at her father like she was, you know, smelling for her father, she smelled, I'm guessing, that weapon, and the exact same time Hinami's mother looked at that weapon, it's like, honey, and all that, so that must have been, you know, her husband. Pretty much from what I can see, here's the ghouls' kagune is being used as weapons. So that's pretty interesting how that's being done. For the most part, episode was very good. I enjoyed it. It was a solid episode. I would give this episode, if I had to rate it, an 8 out of 10. Honestly, it was a very good episode, and I enjoyed it. All of you anime-only watchers, how did you feel about this episode? I mean, was it easy to understand? I mean, what you feel about the morals of right and wrong, vengeance, and stuff like that? Let me know your thoughts on that. And also, you manga readers, please let me know if they are rushing things again, or if they are just still rearranging events, and they're going back to that arc they tried to skip. So let me know in the comments below. I love all of you so much, and please let me know if you agree with my theories I made in this episode review. Everybody, please be safe. Chibi out.